And I can run through it multiple times and just take notes.
Okay, so just so we know what we're getting into the TRIRIGA training, the TREMS environment for FEMA. We are looking at the dev environment, which I believe you do have access to, Dan. I'll double check. I'll send you that URL again. I believe, though, from an outside perspective, we gave you access to that some time ago.
It's possible, but I've always worked in the TDL on the FEMA environment directly, so.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and make sure you get that. I'll get an email going with our notes as needed. All right. So I'm going to walk into TRIRIGA. I'm going to use my credentials. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try yours just as a test here. I think I typed that wrong. Okay. So I typed the password incorrectly. It's just D Mascarello and then password, lowercase. So once we get into TRIRIGA, again, this is your particular portal. Everything that we have access to, basically you have access to. But the place that we're going to show you is the data portfolio, which are your locations, orgs, people, geography. So once we click on the portfolio landing page, gives you all of these portal sections. And typically you want to have your geography in place, then your organizations, then your locations, and finally your people data. Okay, so with the geography hierarchy, very simply created here, everything has to be added through the geography hierarchy. You cannot add geography records unless you go through the hierarchy, because there has to be a parent-child relationship, and the system creates that join between the different records. Again, you'll see some sample data in here that we created. North America is the world region that we're working with. Underneath that, if I collapse that, you'll see I have a plus minus. United States is the only country in here. And then you can start working it by region, then region to state. And you'll see that we were playing around with a couple different scenarios when we started working in the in the dev environment. I believe in TDL and production, it goes like this, where it's the world region, the country, the region, then the states. Within the states are your counties and then your cities. So this is reflective of what is in TDL and prod. Again, you have some sample data outside of that, which takes us directly to states. So to add in any new regions, any new countries, you basically start at that parent record that you're looking at here. We never really talked about fixing this Guam information, because I know it's been wrong for some time and I had some questions. So maybe we can talk about how to do that now. So under North America, any word that's highlighted in that bold, there's some menus up at the top. And you can start adding only the type of child records that it allows. So for a world region, you can only add countries. Once you click the word country, a new pop-up comes up. And you've kind of done this in locations already, so you have some experience, in the system. But everything that's hierarchical, you have to go through the hierarchy. United States, the country, if I hit new here, you'll see that you have several other options. You can add a city, a metro, a region. But sticking to the theme of the way FEMA wants, you'll go region, click the region, pop-up window will come, you'll add that new region. Under those regions, you'll have to come in here and create all of the states, counties, and then cities. So do I need to show you how to add each one of these child hierarchies?
I don't believe so. And okay. in the FEMA system, they're already in existence, right?
Yeah, they are.
Although I might have to add cities or counties or something later.
Correct. Yeah. So that's what I thought that we were going to be doing, is showing you how to do things that you needed for future, not necessarily today.
All right. I don't think that's such a big deal. I've added regions before, or not regions, but areas and locations.
Okay. So, well, remember the geography first before you create your location. organization second. In this organization hierarchy, we were given records by FEMA themselves. So how many of these are actually correct and not correct, we don't know. We were given a list of organizations.
As they're found in the FRPP, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So as we went through here, we just created them at the organizational level, and then I'll scroll down, and then the ones that are actually associated to the FRPP are agencies. So we have two levels, an organization and then the agencies within those organizations. I believe, where is it? What would we call, FEMA is under Homeland Security, right? And so under Homeland Security, we would then probably find, again, this may not be the full list, but FEMA would be directly associated here. If you know the organization and you're checking to see if the organization exists, if you click on that parent record, all of its children records will show up to the right. So if I type in FEMA here, we'll see if it's even, and so it is. FEMA is under Homeland Security. Now, go ahead.
7041, that's right.
Okay. So when you create these records, you'll see that we're using the ID and the name specifically. There is an agency code and a bureau code that we're using for the FRPP data that populates the reporting data. Okay, so just have to be careful what you're loading and how you're entering the data here, but those are the 4 specific fields that we're using.
ID, name, agency, bureau.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So like I said, we entered all of the agency information as was given to us by either FEMA or via the FRPP data. So all of those should be there. But if you need to add, again, it's just like the other. Find your organization, click on New, and then you get the type of records that can be added. In most cases, it's just going to be agency, unless you go to the root, which is the organizations. Then you click on New, and then you get the different types of organizations that you're going to enter.
Okay.
All right. So portfolio, we went through geography a little bit. If you want to search the database without looking at the hierarchy, you have the different types of records you can search. So if you wanted to just look through world regions and do a filter, again, there's only 2 here. Why there's 2 North Americas is beyond me. But probably a load thing in a dev that we just, I don't know, overlooked. And then also states, regions, metro areas, counties, cities. And then for organizations, you have all of your agencies you can query through. Rather than looking through the database the other way, through the hierarchy that I showed you, if I just type in FEMA here, we'll find, without having to find its parent. But if you look at the path here, you'll know which parent it's directly under. Department of Homeland Security. So it gives you the full path. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So then the next thing is locations. Your location hierarchy, which I know you're familiar with, gives you all, and again, this is dev, so there's a lot of test data in here. And DCR, Dominic, that's all Dominic stuff. So you have the levels, again, property, then contains, I'll just expand this one. In this case, contains a building. There are some where it's just land. And I'm not really seeing where any of the land is, but if we wanted to look for locations, whoops, wrong place, sorry, portfolio, and then look at land, you can search all the land records here. And within the land record, it'll give you your path. And this is actually not a good hierarchy path. Some of this data just might be bad due to the way.
Environment.
Yeah, there's not much land here. Let's see this one. Yeah, it all looks bad. So we must have fixed that when we moved it over. The other thing, with any of the locations, I'll go back here to the location hierarchy. They all have to be created through the hierarchy. You have to either create your new property, create your land, building, structure. Here you'll have your options: building, land, and in your case, structure. All the others are out of the box, but not necessarily that you'll use. So I'll just go ahead and do structure just so you can get an idea of what's going on here real quick. Required fields are indicated by the red asterisk. One thing that we definitely need to make sure is in place is the geography lookup, and we tested this probably pretty extensive with what was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, so if you know the city that you're looking, and gosh, let's see, there were several duplicates. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head now. It's been months. I'll just use
Where the cities in there twice.
Well,
try Springfield.
They're in there twice because they're part of.
They're in different states.
Counties, actually. So
counties, okay.
They're divided into multiple counties.
Denver's probably one of those.
All right, so let's go. Okay, yeah, so Denver multiple times, and you'll see here Missouri, Colorado, Colorado, Colorado. So Denver, Denver, and Denver. So it starts getting a little confusing here. You'll see one's a county, one's a city, and the other's a county. So you'll want to pay attention to the type of record that it is here. There's Indiana, Denver and Miami in Indiana, the county, and then you've got Denver in Denver, Colorado.
Right.
So you'll just want to be careful what you're picking here. You could use more filters. Like here, we'll go, and that should lower the amount of records that you're looking for. Again, you'll probably pick the city more so than anything else, because that brings over your state, your city, and if there was other codes associated, it'll bring that over as well. Oh, here you go. All your city, state, GLC codes. So if I click on the city record again,
didn't we have some weirdness there where you had to select one of them and not the other, or
yeah,
it would cause some kind of weird problem?
Yeah, we got rid of the field, so you'll notice here that the spyglass is gone from the city, and we're forcing you to use this field.
Geography lookup. That's why we did. Okay, that's why that's the way. Good.
Yeah. What the heck? That's pulling in from somewhere on the record, and I'm trying to figure out where, just so you get an idea. Geography 060. It must be going back even deeper to. That's interesting. Location code 840. Well, we've got all the city, so it's pulling from the city, the county, the state. Okay, so it's pulling all of the codes from each one of its parents. So city has a county as a parent, state as a parent, and country. So it's pulling all those codes from each one of those parents and populating it here. And if you want me to, I'll go a little deeper here. So here's your city code, and let me just move that out of the way. The 060. Bring that back. Where the heck is the county? The county does not show up here and I don't know why. But under the associations, you'll find everything it's associated to or linked in. So the geography, and then you've got your county right here.
Okay, this is, I think, one of those places I wanted to kind of get a good grasp on with the associations thing, because I want to be able to understand the table structure better.
Yeah.
When I get to actually building reports.
Yeah, so this string here is probably going to be your best friend. So when we're in the city record, let me go back, quick associations. This tells you every single association it has in the system. As long as we said declare it in the system, we'll see it. So say, for instance, I associate the city to a lease record. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to show me all the leases here, because we didn't say always show me the leases. But we did say on this particular record to show me the people, classifications, other things, right? But I'll show you how to grab that information. So geographies, basically it's associated to a country and its parent country, which is the term you're going to have to get used to using terms rather than an inner join, outer join. This is truly the join that you're going to be working with. So if you want to...
Right, and I can indicate the type of join. I remember seeing that as well in the reporting.
No. It's just yeah.
There was some way that you did that where we were getting doubles of things, and then you switched the way it was associated.
Right. So you have to be very specific, and I'll take you there real quick.
Okay.
So we'll just on the fly create a report, and since we know we're dealing with cities, so CFI underscore test, just as a sample for today, right? Then we have to come down here and pick the object that we're trying to run reports on. The module will be geography. We're going to pick city. Make sure that there's not a CFI one or a gov. And you see how it's FGov here?
Yeah.
This is the actual form. And anything that has FGov in front of it, we modified.
For FEMA.
For FEMA, correct. So then once we select the business object, I'll just pick the column name. Name, save that. So this is just going to run a report on cities, right? No filters, no nothing.
Right.
So that's a very simple one. But I want to say I want to see the city and I want to see its parent county, right? So now I want, what did I do? Oh, add a business object from geography. It knows that I was looking there, and I want counties. Why is this? Is parent city? No. So this all means it's going to give me the outer join, period, right? So it's going to show me everything. And then, this is acting really weird. Is parent city? That's not the right. So if I get rid of this show associated defined in the data modeler, parent city, what was the term I used? Is parent county?
I think
I can't
maybe.
remember.
Yes,
well,
something like that.
So I'll just pick one. Actually, I'm going to leave it as all, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
All right, so geography, all, no, that's not right. I want county for sure. There we go. Save that. Now I can go to the columns. I can pick county. Those are the columns in county. And now I'll pick name, and I'll change this label because it's the same field we're using across multiple records, so you just got to be careful with that. And now I'll run the report. And so I've got these that have no county. And then I've got the city of Anderson that I just clicked on. And here it doesn't give me the associated county, but if I go to associations, it's going to have geography, it's going to have county, and is child of. So that's what I would want. I want is child of this record, right? So okay. You have to watch what you're doing here. Whoops, I picked the wrong one. And get rid of those. Is actually, this should be the opposite, is parent of. And there's a couple thousand of these. Is parent of, save. So if we were seeing duplicate rows, this would eliminate duplicate rows.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was referring to. I know you had done it the one time. in one of our reports we were seeing duplicates.
Yeah. So you have to be definitive of the string that's creating that association. So you're probably going to ask for help every once in a while. How do I get this to show up? And we're more than happy to help. Okay, so that's kind of reporting and associations. But so you can see the relationships. You would have the associations tab. And we gave you access to that. We gave you full admin rights in here. And then location hierarchy, you're familiar with. Like I think I already touched base on this. Create your property, expand your property. You can see all the buildings in there. Click on the parent, click on new, and you'll get your building, land, or structure. Now, what's happening in TDL and PROD, they're going with the CAD drawings that they're attaching. You're going to start seeing some plus signs against your building because they're creating floors to create the spaces.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, so you'll see more as they start adding more and more drawing files to the system. As of right now, there's like 4. Next thing, portfolio. So we touched on geography, locations, orgs. We haven't touched on people. All of the people who are in the system are indicated as employees. Anybody who's an outside person, say like myself, Arthur, all of us, actually consultants, I'm sorry. Arthur, myself, anybody who's working on the CFI team, we put as consultants. We did add some other people data as consultants that were part of other agencies that Tyrone wanted in there. So you'll see people who are outside of FEMA would be in here. You are indicated as an employee because we really just didn't know where to put you. So
most people don't.
Yeah. So we put you under employees. And when you create a new person, depending on their role, if you know, say for instance, they're going to do exactly what you're doing, you can open up your record and you can just hit the more and you can hit copy. And it'll copy over everything from your record into theirs and specifically the profile. This is probably the most important part because it's identifying your home portal page and your menus that you see up at the top. And then it's also also identifying your security and your licenses that you have within the application. So that's so did I don't know if I clicked copy or not. I will. So now you'll see it'll put copy of as the prefix to your first name. And then you'll just have to come in here and change. And if they're going to be using the system, just leave it like that. You'll want to make sure you put them in the right location. You want to make sure that they have a correct email address. And I got to make sure you have your email address in there. If you're going to be receiving notifications through the system, the email is absolutely necessary.
Is it possible to add more than one email?
No, just one.
Okay.
You'd have to create a group on your side if you wanted to go to multiple. All right. Okay. So then...
I'm just thinking, like, if I want something emailed to me, if I want it emailed to my FEMA email as well as my 270net email.
Yeah. Nope, one email only.
Okay. That's okay. Once this thing's kicking off, I'm probably going to be in the FEMA laptop every day.
Yeah. So then it just copied over everything, including your username. Username is specific to the user. So, and then if you're creating them as an active user, this checkbox has to be checked. If it's not, it will not create that user account. So when there's a person record, there is just a people instance, but then when this is clicked, it creates what they call a profile record within the application, which creates the login.
Gotcha.
I'm going to go ahead and click activate. I left your username alone. It knows that that username is already in use. So you have to do something different, maybe put a 1. And I'm going to uncheck this. I'll click activate, and it almost seems like it's going through the process. And you'll see here review in progress as I apply filters. Review in progress, review in progress. This one usually takes a minute, and you'll see it finally went to active. But that does not mean that it's an active user. So active and active user mean two different things. This record is now available through queries, a find, add it to a record of some sort, a contact, etc. So it's just an instance of data, not a real profile. So if you wanted to make this a profile, you can come back in here, revise, check the box, and then activate again.
Okay.
Now, there's going to be a point in time, and I don't know when, that FEMA is going to want everybody to change their passwords. Right now, everybody is set to password, P-A-S-S-W-R-D. We're going to have to, because it's not complying with government regulations where they have to change their passwords every 90 days. And we've asked them this multiple times. They have put us off repeatedly, over and over and over again. Gosh, there's so many steps here. There is going to be, where the heck is it? Administration, application definition, might be under portfolio. Setup. You'll see that there's a lot, under every menu, there's a setup. That setup helps you set things up, and this is where I kept telling Tyrone, we need to set things up before you can do anything in the application. So he's very stubborn when it comes to that stuff.
I would call it a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand what it takes a lot of the times, which is why he relies on us. But
he still doesn't listen. Okay, so right here under tools.
Isn't that a common theme with clients?
Yeah, so you got your system set up, and then you've got this password setup. Password setup will require people to, so we're not enforcing any password rules right now. Once I check that, it will start enforcing it. But when can we prohibit password recycling? Yes or no? Basically, can I reuse the same password I used in the last 3 times, basically? Okay. Password expires, yes. Password reminder, if you want. Password expiration duration. So this will give them an email 1 month before it actually expires. But it doesn't do like any other system where, actually, here's your password reminder. So if in a month I want to set this to every 5 days, then it'll send a reminder every 5 days. Portal. So this one changes when they log in. They will get a password change portal. So if they have not changed their password and they try to log in tomorrow and it needs to be changed, they will only get their password change portal, which is basically 3 lines, old password, new password, update. And everything else is pretty much grayed out. And then, of course, there's all these other requirements, 1 uppercase, special character, right? This is not enforced at this time, but I'm sure it's going to come, and I just want you to know that it's there. The next thing to this particular scenario is right here, force password reset. This particular tool, somebody said, how do I change my password, right? We are not forcing anybody to change their password. We're not doing anything at this time. But the only way to change somebody's password at the moment, and I'll show you, it's very clunky. If I go to, say, my record. Oh, I'm not an employee. Actually, I'll do the temp one that I made for you. And it's not an active user, right? So I'll revise it. At this point, just to kind of show you, because I want you to kind of hear what this does. Right now, there is not a profile record. So if I were to go to the Associations tab, and I take a look at all of the things it's associated to, here it says people and people. It only says has me as a delegate, right? There's nothing else that says has associated to or anything. which means that there's no profile. So you'll see try people here, but you should see a second box that says try profile. The profile is the case where they can log in. So I'll go ahead and, go back to profile, and we'll do Dan Mascarella 1 as the password. Hit activate. The system out of the box always propagates password as the initial password, regardless of who it is, what type, unless we go into the workflows and change that. So now I'm going to hit apply filters. It's still back at the active state. Now it's active user. So now that person can log in. But like I was getting to, my point is, how do I change somebody's password? I forgot my password. Out of the box, it's password. The only way to change their password is to go to their profile. How do I get to their profile? Via the associations. So now a new record is created. So you see now how I have two, try people and my profile. So my profile is the association associated to. If I click on that, you're going to see the difference here. This is an employee record. This is my profile record. So now there are two distinct unique records within the application. Under user access, under my profile, here is the password. And it is encrypted. So if I type in PASSWRD, PASSWRD, it's the same password that it was. So I'll put a 1 behind each one of them. I'll hit save and close. They have to match. It will give you a warning if they do not match. So changing that person's password, I'd have to go to their people record, go find their profile record, and now their password is changed. So
okay, and if you do that, how then do you force them to change the password when they first log in?
Okay, I'm going to show you that. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you from the how it gets started, and then how to force them to change it.
Okay. The other question I had from everything we've talked about, or whatever covered, is the password requirements. When we set password requirements, like the strength requirements, where is that defined?
Oh,
or
that's
can I change that definition, or?
Yeah, that's what I was just showing you at the system setup. Okay. Yeah, so everything, the definition is right here. The password setup.
Okay, password setup.
Yep. So everything that's here is the definition today.
Okay, no, but enforce password rules. Like if we want to say, uppercase, lowercase, where is that? I'm not seeing that.
Right here. Must contain.
Okay, at the bottom.
Yeah.
I was focusing on that middle section. Okay, never mind. I'm being dumb.
It's okay. Yeah, no. Very good questions. Must contain at least one uppercase, one special character, one number. So these are all optional.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Okay, so portfolio people. So that user, I'm logged in as that user now. I gave him your exact permissions, right? So their password is now password 1. So if I were to sign out, and of course I used your long last name. Okay, so password, I'm going to try the original password, PASSWRD. When you see this message here, invalid user ID or password, that means that they're typing in their password incorrectly. Now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 as the user ID, and the correct password, which I'm certain of. What the heck?
Yeah, you changed the user ID.
Yeah, I did that on purpose because it's supposed to give me another message.
Oh, a different message.
Yeah. Why is it not doing it in this environment? That's really weird. Okay, how about XXXXX? Log in. Usually another little pop-up box comes up and it says contact your administrator. If you see a box that says that, that means that there is no login account that matches that. So I've got to double check why this one's not showing it. But anyway.
You might not have something turned on or something.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Caps. 1. All right. So you see when I log in, I do not have to change my password. So now, once we start enforcing that password change, if you change the system setup and you want them to have those special characters, numbers, all that good stuff, this right here, force password reset, it allows you to go pick the people that you want to force the password. So what employee, blah, 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 right? So now if I go find, and I'll do the XXX person, right here. We have very minimal users in this environment. And if I hit done, shoot, I don't know if that did it. I think I was supposed to do something else. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it again. Okay, click OK. And then here, this checkbox, and then reset password.
Okay. So I can like do this to a whole bunch at once.
Exactly. And my recommendation is going to be that we pick all active users when we get there.
When time comes, right?
Yeah. So I'll sign out. 1, and let's see, their password was password 1. And now, when I told you the portal would look different, this is all they get now. So, and it does copy over.
Okay.
It does copy over all of the things that you filled out in that password setup. So it tells them has to be different than the last 3. So that's
okay. Perfect.
Uppercase, lowercase, number, and a special character. So current password is 1, capital PASSWRD, 1, 2, 3, exclamation is my typical that usually meets this criteria. Change my password, and if I met the criteria, it'll give me this successful, and I have to log out, log back in, and everybody's going to lose their passwords, Dan. It's going to be a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. What we don't have built into this is reset to a standard password. We built it for other clients. It's not in this environment, though. All right, so what I mean by that is, say today you force everyone to change their password. They go from password to whatever, my name is right. Tom, right? Whatever they put it, and they forget their password. There is not a way for you to come in here and reset their password without going to their portfolio, their profile, and then typing in a new password.
So I would give them a password, then I'd go and set them to change their password, but just for the one person.
No, you would only change. So yes, you would give them a new password in their profile, and then force reset again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's extra steps, but pretty standard.
Well, so we have other tools, and we're probably going to suggest that we build that out for you guys if it gets to that point. And with the number of users that are going to be coming on board, let me show you. Just show you.
Yeah, I can tell you with the previous system was real property only. It didn't have everybody for reserve and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was getting contacted pretty regularly.
So this one, I'll show you. This is our VA client. Wrong password. I got too many Tririga instances. There we go. So here we built this tool, and we might be able to try to bring it over. Data utilities, password reset. This is not out of the box, but it does allow. See here how we have one, so you don't have to retype it over and over, and then you can put a reason, and then you can go find the users. So you can find 15 or 20 users at once. Oh, all these users today forgot their password. I can select them all, click OK, and now every single person in the system has this new password of password VA123.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, but again, this is not in your environment. It's something that once you see it becoming a problem, we can absolutely build it out for you.
Okay, sounds good.
But we'll have to charge FEMA for it.
Of course, of course.
um,
But well, of course, I don't write the checks, but I fully expect that they will be regularly contacting you to enhance and upgrade and update.
yep.
They're talking about new changes to the RPTW already.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we knew that was going to happen. Had
yeah,
to.
it's at least once a year.
Okay, so back to portfolio people. You kind of get the idea around people. If you have a user, you can copy them. It'll copy over all the criteria. If they're becoming an active user, it will create a My Profile record as well as an employee consultant or external contact, whichever they were created. Um, Password setup, we talked about that. The next thing is, so for FRPP specifically, not necessarily for these other ones, but for FRPP, you were asking about possibly adding new values and stuff like that to a drop-down list, right? Um,
Right.
so you're not wanting to change the system, but you possibly may want to change the drop-down. And let me just get into.
Right. If they decide to add a new legal interest type, or if they decide they want to try put a different type of mission dependency in, or any of those things.
Yep.
Um,
All right.
Holding
So
period. Right now, I think it's 1, 2, and 3. If they want to add a 4, something like that.
okay, so let's look at there's two different types of fields here. There's a classification field and there's a fire list. So classification has a little spyglass next to it, and then this drop
Hmm.
down is called what we call a list value. Kind of simple ones,
With
right?
simple,
Yeah,
with like a single value, whereas the classification has possibly multiple fields.
correct. So let's
Hmm.
let's start with holding period and firing flag. Okay, I'm going to show you how to number one identify what field it is, and then number two how to add values to it. So the form that we're going to be looking at, you would go here, and we're gonna trust you 1,000,000% not to change anything on the forms.
I will endeavor not to betray your trust.
All right, so everything is under location, FRPP, and this is a very rush situation because of the changes that we were making along the way, and I'm not happy with it being here, but this is where it is. FRPP
Okay.
is under location. Um, so the form FRPP, FGov, FRPP, and I was showing you the FRPP form, holding period and firing flag.
Hmm. Yep.
This basically gives you your form and all of the field names, the columns. This is how you actually read the Tririga system to identify what fields they are. So if I click on holding period here, you'll see over to the left, we've got how it was built and defined. That's the actual name of the field. Over
Okay.
here to the right are the properties of it. And you'll
All
also
right.
see here the name. That's your reporting name that you're going to be looking for. And then down here at the bottom, you've got your source details. So I scrolled through this property and it takes me to my source details, which popped
Hmm.
up, and then I hid it behind the scenes. But it basically tells me that it is a classification field. It's the holding period, and my root classification is FedGov holding period, which means in the hierarchy of classifications, this is my parent. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to move this out of the way.
That
And
interface is somewhat similar to Access if you were ever to design in Access,
kind of,
Microsoft
yeah,
Access directly. Understand that interface. But that's actually nice to know too, because if I'm ever trying to figure out a report, I'm like, look, I want to see this piece of data. I can figure out what field it is.
right, right. So then here, under the tools, are the classifications. And like I said, the name of it was holding period something or other, right?
You did copy it.
Yep.
FedGov holding period, I think.
Yeah, I got it right here. FedGov holding period. All right, and this takes a while to load. So then through the hierarchy, everything's in alphabetical order. And I put the FedGov purposely in here so you can find all the custom ones that we built for you guys.
Gotcha.
And then here's your holding period. Once I click on that, these are the 3 values that would show up against that field. So if I want to add a new value, I just click on the parent, click on new, and this is going to be confusing because we didn't want to create new objects. We kind of reused objects. It just says process period, which is okay. It's not going to hurt anything. And then value. Okay, just as a test, we'll hit create. All right, so that'll update.
And I'm assuming the IDs are like 1, 2, and 3 there.
Yes. So you'll have to follow suit there on.
Okay. The reason I ask is because the 1, 2, 3 I think is what we actually report.
Yep. And that's what we're doing. We're grabbing the name when it's selected and then populating the ID. So
Perfect.
that has to be populated. And then
awesome.
So I'll go to an FRPP record, which I think I actually have open already over here. So if I refresh this real quick and I say holding period, there's my new value. So it wasn't there before.
Sweet.
Obviously, this triggers a workflow. I did not put an ID, so the holding period. You see how that's spinning in the reporting.
Trying to do something.
In the reporting, the holding value will not be populated because I did not put an ID. So
okay.
Yeah.
Did we ever go back and update the reporting tab? That was one of those things that was left off when you jumped over to reserve. I don't know if it ever went back to it, but this looks very different from what I remember.
Yeah, this was the update right here. We cleaned it up.
Nice.
So yeah, it looks much cleaner.
I don't think I've looked at that since.
Yeah, this was a nightmare. This just drove me absolutely nuts. So okay, so we'll leave that.
That looks pretty good.
And then the next one. So that was classifications, right? How to add to the hierarchy. Now the next one is lists. So I still have the form open, and that's a firing range, right? And same thing here, gives you the source details. It'll tell me that it's under the module of metric, yes, no flag, okay? So I'll move that out of the way. When we come back here to lists, these are all my lists in the system. So if I knew which one I was looking for, I could, first by module, it was metric.
Metric.
I can't find it. Trimetric. And they're not in order, by the way.
Okay.
Metric fact. And so then it brings up everything in that module, which this was the yes, no flag. So we have 2 values, yes, no. And if I wanted to put something else in here, potentially, come on.
Now, something like a yes, no flag. Obviously, yes, no is going to be used in a lot of different places potentially.
Yep.
Is there an easy way to find out if this is used in multiple forms and multiple locations, or if that's just applied to the single field?
I will show you. So this one particularly.
Obviously, you'd want to know that before you change it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, here you can't. It doesn't say where used. In most of the other system, it does, but this one does not. But I'll show you here in the data modeler. You know what? That is definitely something that we don't have in place.
Try metric down there, maybe?
No. So the field is embedded into the tables. This is the tables, and so FRPP is the table. And so if I want to go find that field now, which is firing range. So here's the field, right? And that field is linked now to, come on, I click on it, to that metric. Doesn't necessarily mean that every field is going to be linked to that metric. Everything says that it's going to be linked to the metric. But here, this particular field, I can say, where is that used? And it'll tell me everywhere in the system where that field is used. may not
Where
necessarily.
that field is used, but not necessarily that list.
Correct. So the list definitely has
Okay.
some shortcomings, but at least you can
Okay.
kind of get close. Maybe you can find another one that has. But yeah, you're absolutely correct there. There's no way
Okay.
to find out where that list is associated.
Okay.
So where was it? Oh, lists. Find your module, which we were.
Trimetric.
Here we go. The yes, no. And then here, once you see the cursor blinking, you can add your other value. And then you have to save entries. Another, before I hit it, you can continue to add.
Oh, that's nice.
So you type it in, hit enter, and then you say, okay, yes, this is my list, or no, it's not my list, get rid of them, delete the entries, start over. But for
Okay.
this,
Cool.
for save entries, now it's added to the list. If you want it gone, here's an issue. If you add a value and someone has selected that value in a record, it will not let you delete it.
It sounds about right to me.
Yep. So delete entries. That'll take that one away before you go publish anything. So that's lists. Classifications and lists are probably the only place that you should be adding any new values. You'll want to be careful, though, to make sure, like we talked about a minute ago, on the FRP piece specifically, if there's a value that you're using in a classification, or we know for sure geographic neutrality, takes data from that geographic neutrality value and puts it into the reporting. So I'm going to go.
Right.
All right. So geographic neutrality here. Down here, there's an on change, which basically says this is the workflow that it's calling to make those changes to other places in the system. So on change basically says there's a workflow, and this one doesn't seem to have a workflow. Why? Oh, this is dev. I'm not even going to worry about this one in dev. But basically, if there's a workflow, it's saying get me the value and then populate it into that reporting as well. So you'll want to be careful to either add or don't add, or ask us about it. How do I update it? Generally, we're very generic, and we're just grabbing the value, and then we're grabbing the ID, and we're populating it over here into the reporting. So most of those should work just fine. But if there's something that's not working, we definitely want to get a call.
Okay.
What else? Tools. I showed you a little bit in Data Modeler. Form Builder is probably where you'll go to find your field values more so than anything else. You won't be touching Workflow Builder, none of that stuff. All this stuff you won't be touching. I can't imagine that you'd be touching any of that stuff. So Portfolio, not in the interim anyway, till you get used to everything else.
Right. My assumption is in the early stages, I'm going to be doing a lot of user account management.
Yep.
And just portfolio management, and building reports from the portfolio.
Okay. I mean, beyond that, I don't know what else I can show you today until you get, till we know what other things are going to be coming. Basically, I showed you all the portfolio stuff, people, changing passwords, how to find the fields.
Well, here's something. I would not be overly surprised if somebody, they might ask me basic questions about administration of the reserve or those other sections that we're building, the other modules they're implementing. What can you show me about those that I might have to do from an admin perspective?
So if we get
besides the people themselves.
If we get a new drawing file, and they put a bunch of spaces in there, there is space. Let's see. I'm trying to remember where it is now. Setup. Is it setup? Let's that's not it. This site map is also useful. Just gives you everything that's in the application in a manager. And what I do here is I hit sitemap, and then I'm like, okay, I can't remember where it's at, but I could try to poke around, or I can use my Control F, reserve, and it'll start showing me.
I know what it's called.
Yeah. Manage reservations, location reservation. So no, that's all survey requests. Next, equipment reservation. Nope. We've got the, almost looks like, oh, here we go. Reserve bulk update. That's the guy. This is for setting up the spaces so that they are reservable. The space classes, so down here are all of the spaces, right? And today they are identified by a space class, shared, enclosed, meeting, whatever type they are. And they're also identified, I'll open up a space record. This is something that's a little confusing in the beginning, that it is reservable. It has to be marked reservable in order for it to show up. It has to be a shared enclosed, a meeting, or shared workstation, open workstation. So that's one of the three types. The capacity, how many people can sit there, and then there's, I think that's about it for the most part. And then there's the reserve tab, which, what reserve calendar does it belong to? Is it a workspace, a meeting space? Are there entitlements, which they did not identify any? If there's a cutoff window, how many days in advance can I reserve? How many days? There's all this. This is the standard selection that we put against all of the fields. Is there ADA available, network connection, conference? So we've set that up for all the spaces. But if we get new spaces in place, we would then have to filter by the building that it's in, and then start setting all of this stuff up at the top. What space class is it? Shared workstation, etc. Advanced limit, all this stuff, and then come down here, find the building of the space, select them all, and then create, oops, down here, update with all the selections up above. And that is part of the reserve setup that we've been trying to talk to Tyrone about. He just won't listen, that we need somebody to do this every time a new file comes into play. And then from there, once they get identified, you'd want to check your calendar. Let me I'm going to personalize this just so I can get one real quick. Portal. I'll add that there. All right, so once those spaces have been assigned as a reservable space, they should show up on the reserve. Did you even participate in the reserve by chance?
No, I know nothing about it.
Okay. So each person every day has to go in here and assign their space. So I'm going to clear all this stuff out, because it knows who this person was and where we sat them. They have to pick the floor that they know their space is going to be at. There's no graphic, so it's not going to show up here. This would show up as far as the list. So if we added a bunch of new spaces today, originally there were 8. If there were 100 more, we'd see 108 in the available rooms for the particular location.
Okay.
So they would show up here. That's how you would know for sure that they got set up correctly. We do have a document written a bit against that, so I'll make sure you get that as well.
All right, good.
But it does start at that. I gotta find it. I want to show you the right way to do this. Reserve. There it is. So so you see how here, reserve bulk update, setup, requests, home, the cookie crumbs here will take me all the way back here. So it would have fallen under requests, under setup, and then I've got my reserve bulk update. So that's the true path of getting to it, rather than through sitemap, although sitemap does it too. So
Okay.
Trying to think what else. I think that's really it.
So this isn't just like meeting spaces. This is actually like where you're going to sit for the day.
Well, originally I thought it was just going to be meeting spaces, but he changed the whole priority of it, that no one has an assigned seat. Everyone has to pick their seat every single day.
They can't like pick their seat for the next week. They have to pick it every morning.
They decided that they would do it every day. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That's right.
Okay. Well, hopefully it works, because if not, that's going to be a nightmare.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
I'm kind of dumbfounded here. I thought this was just meeting spaces and conference rooms.
Yeah, people have already complained they don't want to do it every day. So.
Yeah, big surprise there.
Yeah, but we haven't heard any feedback from Tyrone or Sydney that they want to change it. So today stands as everybody comes in every day and reserves their seat every day. Until we hear different, that's the way we're rolling with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously you can poke around all these other areas, but they're not using projects yet. They're not using requests. They're not using any of it yet. Requests would basically fall under manage requests. I want to submit a request. Once I submit a request, what kind of request is it? An IT, a space, a product, services, location, reservations. So this just takes them back to their calendar, my calendar. Just a different look and feel of how to get there. A facilities request. There's electrical and lighting problem, interior services. Again,
those would tie directly into our repairs for the locations, right?
Yep. If in fact we set this up, and we haven't set it up yet, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now they can create requests all day long, but you see here there are no exterior services for this location. So there's a lot of things that we have to identify before they can start using the system.
Gotcha.
So
but
then,
at least if they tell me what they need, and from a repairs perspective, I can at least enter it for the locations to track it for FRPP.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, that's good enough for me until they tell us otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Projects, Tyrone said he wanted to see right here from a request. It can actually get turned into a capital or facility project depending on how they move forward with it. So that requests and projects tie together. Tasks are basically things that have to be done, kind of like a project schedule within the project when it gets created. Space are all the spaces, how they manage it, find space, assess space, allocate space, put people in space, who's being charged back for that space, all that fun stuff, which they're not using. Maintenance.
This isn't NASA. We're not putting people in space.
Yeah. So then maintenance, facility assessment. If they start doing condition facility assessment, they can create their opportunities, which we're already starting to do some of that anyway with the FRPP data, all the opportunities on the building, so forth. I know you remember those terms. Sustainability. This is all green initiatives, except for opportunities. Those tie back to everything because everything goes back to a cost, an opportunity. Inventory is basically they may have for the requests. They may keep light bulbs. They may keep tissue paper. They may keep PVC pipe. Who knows what they keep, right? And they can manage their inventory and report against the request through that inventory. They're probably not going to do that. And then contracts are basically, okay, when we set up the requests, we know that there's an outside party that always gets contracted to change out my light bulbs. So if I get an electrical and lighting request, that email will go to someone saying, hey, there's a new request, blah, 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 needs to be done by October 10th, blah, blah, blah. So contracts start setting up those particulars, and then also, so that's the agreements, and then if they manage their leases, which there are some leases within the application, which are tied back to FRPP. So your contracts, your leases, and you already basically have this one down also. Uh-oh. That number calls me every single day, and there's never anyone on the other line. But basically, you manage all the leases through FRPP anyway, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. You've got your add function through here.
But they really want to talk to you.
Yeah. So, that's really it for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here they're just not using, and I guarantee once they start using the system, they're going to say, well, I know it's in there, and you're going to go, well, yeah, but...
Well, it's not set up.
Yeah. So, that was actually pretty quick. I thought we'd be on the phone longer.
Yeah, I mean, I know the FRPP portion of it pretty well already, and it's not like I haven't had my share.
So to get to the admin console, no, there's not a link in the app.
Okay.
So right here, I was in the application.
Yeah.
I took everything from behind the default / typed in admin, and that takes me to
No, that's easy.
Yeah.
And it would be the same login.
Yep, same login.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, probably if I... Oh.
Oops. Is it DMaskrilla 1 now?
No, I kept your other one. No?
Okay. Password 1?
I don't think your account has... Oh, I know what it is. Here you go. Oh, wrong one, too.
You're going to get us locked out.
No, it's not set up in this environment. So, admin user manager. So here, you do not have access. Yeah. I'll give you full. And probably will just give you read anyway, but we'll see.
Yeah, the only reason I would need full, I would think, would be the lockout thing.
Yeah, and they haven't talked about activating that. And heaven forbid, having to go through IT to get that set up. Oh, my God.
Yeah, no question.
Just to put a yes behind something.
I'd have to look, but I know that there are certain government restrictions regarding systems access. I'm wondering if, the system's considered, last I checked, it was low, or
Yep.
Was low, medium, one or the other. They may not require it there, but if we ever get pushed to a higher CIA status.
Now, like I said, I told them about the password restrictions, and they totally ignored it. So.
Well, that will happen because when we actually go through, if they have they even finished that yet? The certification CNA.
Yeah, the last we heard, it was all done, but.
They passed it without the password restrictions in place.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, that's wow.
Because I brought it up.
I have a feeling that's gonna be thrown back in our face here, but it's easy to fix.
I do too.
That's just. I'm sorry. That just tells me they didn't actually do their CNA.
I have to agree.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess I'll double check the NIST guidelines and the 800 guidelines for that, but I'm sorry, the 8500 guidelines.
Yeah.
And just double check and make sure we're covering our butts here.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. All right. What else should I know?
I can't think of anything else at this time. I mean, right now with what we've got pushed out there, reserve and FRPP, I just can't see anything else.
That's really all that's up and running, right?
Yep.
And who has access to that right now? I mean, all the users obviously have access to reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Who has access to FRPP and or any of the admin stuff?
Tyrone basically said, there was a handful of people, and I can't, let's see. We'd have to look at that in a report in
the system itself.
Yeah, but
Okay.
let's see. Password. Yeah. So in reports, you've got the different types here, right? So you've got community, which are typically reports that only the community should be able to run. They only have this run button. They cannot modify them. Okay. Anyone who has system reports, which would be you, can click on any one of the reports, and you have edit rights to any of those reports. But I'd use caution on any of these reports, say, that have the term manager query. Whoops. Well, if I could spell it right. Manager query in them. These ones basically are reports that are run when you click on a landing page and then a section within those landing pages. So anything that says manager query, those are predefined within the application. Sometimes you want to add more columns. You'll want to be careful which ones you grab and add those columns to it. These are also embedded into what we call the into the navigation builders and portal builders. So if you know, say for instance here on requests, this particular query, my active requests, they want to see another column, you can find that portal section and find the query that's embedded into it. I don't really recommend that you try to figure all this out, but I'll show you, it's here through the portal builder and then you'd find your landing page. So tasks, and it gives you a pretty good naming convention, tasks. So that's the landing page for the most part. Tasks landing page default, and then you hit edit, and then you'll see my active tasks basically shows you the one I showed you a second ago. This is the actual query that's embedded into that section. That's not the query, I'm sorry. That's the portal section. And then once I do that, that particular section contains the query. And here's the query that shows the results within that section. So you got to go 3 levels deep before you find the report. So if I click on the report here, put the name in, here's the report that the user sees. Oh, these are always fun. And if I run the report, this is what the user sees when they go to that section. And this is by that person. So I don't have any open tasks. Otherwise, it'd show me the tasks that I have open.
Right.
So basically, again, anything, there's a term here, current user. There's a bunch of 132, and then there's also the term associated to. Those are going to show you, there's a lot of those. Sections within a query. So say, for instance, you have your FRPP data and your lease associated to leases. So in here, you're going to have our CFI query that shows the leases associated to the FRPP. So those you don't want to change. You just have to be very careful. Typically, if there's a query that you like, you can always copy it by selecting the query, clicking copy, and then it puts copy of as a prefix. And I would change that to reflect maybe FEMA in front of it, and then even in the tag, this is critical, FEMA, save that. So if you have reports that you know are going to have the tag of FEMA, it'll search the entire database and pull you only those reports. So I would recommend not modifying anything, but copying it and then trying to reuse that, and then taking that report and putting it as a community report if the users need to see it.
Perfect.
What else can I tell you about reports? You have different types of reports. Just, I guess you call it tabular, where they're row by row. Reports and queries basically look like that. Graphic, summary, where you have numbers that you want to total things up on. Charts. External, if you have BERT report capabilities, you can attach a BERT report to the application. And then these reserve and reserve legacy don't have anything here. Hierarchy is if you have, say, a contract, and this is speaking, or you want to run a report against locations and you want to show all the floors. That's the hierarchy. You can see the parent and the child. Unfortunately, though, you can't export out hierarchy reports. They only show the parent records in all cases. So let's see one here. There's no data in here for any of this. Yeah. I'd like to show you one, but there's no data that matches that. And then metrics are, if in fact you have a metric that you're trying to meet and you're gauging it red, yellow, green. Let's see, on projects, there's probably some here. So everything here under the reporting metrics, scheduled by variance. Since there's no scheduled tasks, nothing to report on how many days from start to finish. There's, move costs. We must have created some move stuff in here. On-time service responses, that's in bad shape, bad shape. So it starts giving you a color coding, red, yellow, green. On-time responsiveness, we must have done something with our surveys here, and that's how it's calculating something here. But these are way deep into the application. And until we actually get some real data in there, we couldn't even get a good metric report out of here.
It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
To do it at this stage.
No. Reports. Again, reports you got to just be very careful with. I wish there was a where. Oh, actually, there is a where used on reports. Within the report itself, there's a tab, and it'll tell you where it's being used. Here, it's in a master details, so a portal section is where this is being used. And it's kind of hard to read this unless you're in the system all the time.
Okay.
Let's see.
That's good to know, though, because I can double check things real quick.
Yeah. And if it's not used anywhere, then typically it's safe to copy. Yeah, this one is used in many places.
Okay.
Let's see what else. What else? I just can't think of what else there is.
No, I think that's great for now. It's enough for me to start working on generating some process documentation and walkthrough stuff for myself, if not for our users.
Yeah, I'll find the email that we gathered all the information and make sure I forward that to you, just so you have it all.
Okay.